Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Insurance in Australia is big business. What's more, it's one that affects almost every one of us, from the everyday, home and contents, car, health or life insurance, through to the professional, workers' compensation, indemnity, cybercrime insurance. Like many industries that have been around for a long time, insurance is rapidly evolving, being pushed ahead by technology. Much like what fintech has done for financial services, InsureTech is doing for insurance. My guest today is Rita Yates, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of InsureTech Australia, a national not-for-profit organisation representing and advocating for members and partners in insurance technology. Rita, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks for having me.
What is InsureTech for the dummies like me?
Well, InsureTech in its very simplest form is essentially insurance technology. So there's a couple of different levels to explain InsureTech. The first, represents InsureTech organizations that predominantly are startups and scale-ups building tech solutions for the insurance space. The second level to the definition really is the insurance incumbent organizations, so the big insurers, brokers, etc., that essentially build technology into their businesses, and it's the secondary definition of InsureTech.
Okay, so let's take those two. If we take the first one, and I suppose I'm akin to neobanks and that sort of thing in the banking industry, it's the startups changing the insurance sector. What are they looking at? What sorts of things are they developing?
Yeah, look, great question. And the answer to that really is that they are developing solutions for every aspect of the insurance value chain. So that begins from where people go to buy their insurance and where insurance is distributed, right through to the claims process, which is often the most important element of insurance. So it's when an incident occurs and as an individual or a business, you actually have to make a claim. And the solutions that they are developing are essentially focused on ensuring that there is a far better experience that is far more efficient. It is in line with what consumers expect today from every industry that they engage with. So essentially consumers expect 24/7 capabilities, instant service, online channel access, and the ability to do everything on their smartphone. And traditionally that has not been available in the insurance industry. So InsureTech is really helping to support those capabilities and also just to redefine and transform what insurance actually means. So building brand new products that go to market that better reflect our lifestyles today, like gig economy insurance, pay-as-you-drive insurance, and essentially creating a much more trusted environment for consumers that take out insurance.
Okay, then the second part is what the big guys are doing, and presumably they're adopting some of these sorts of forms of insurance or service models.
They are indeed, and I think there's absolute acceptance these days that in the insurance landscape, you must be digitally transforming your business to keep up with essentially what consumers are demanding today. And so certainly they are adopting these technologies and they're doing this for the most part by partnering with these InsureTech organisations in many different fashions. But also they are, redefining their strategies to build digital transformation into their strategies. So that could be actually working internally to transform what they are doing internally. And then the second piece to that is really working with some of these much more innovative, nimble digital solutions by partnering with them externally as well to deliver to consumers what is required.
I mean, we're sort of forward-looking here, but recently I had to claim on a car insurance with one of the big players. And what I actually found incredible, and I hadn't made a claim on insurance for many years, I suppose, was how easy it was. It was really seamless. And all those forms that I don't know whether I even remember it, whether I just imagine it, it was actually incredibly easy.
Yeah. And look, this is absolutely in line with what we're talking about here with the industry as a whole really transforming itself. And whilst there's still quite a way to go, a lot of that paperwork has been eliminated from every part of the insurance process. And that's really the simplest form of how technology can actually improve insurance as an industry, again, for consumers, is actually to take away the inefficiencies, the paperwork, and allow everything to be done online in a much more transparent but a much more efficient process. And at the end of the day, as I said, it's that claims process which is the make or break with the relationship that people have with insurance. If it's a good experience, then we think very positively about insurance and our coverage. If it's a negative experience, which traditionally where you had to put through lots of paperwork or make phone calls and be on hold for many hours, it really leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And certainly it has been traditionally why, historically, insurance was not a well-trusted industry. It relates back to the experience that people had. But it's really great to see technology starting to really transform insurance for the better.
I mean, I think insurance as a brand has always been dowdy. Is that being a bit unkind? The funny thing is once you actually experience now, it's not like that. What you said earlier on about was it insure as you drive, it made me think that some of these sorts of things, it's not just for the insurance companies. Obviously, it's better for them to become more efficient in their processes, but it's actually for people like me who potentially will end up paying less for insurance if those efficiencies can feed through the system.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of InsureTech is actually aimed at decreasing the overall cost of insurance. So we know that insurance costs do continue to rise globally, not just in Australia. Insurance has not been a favourite, as you said, a favourite topic of conversation for many people historically. But these days there are certainly improvements being made. In terms of the reduction of costs, obviously, as I mentioned before, using things like artificial intelligence and machine learning to decrease the administration of insurance and increase efficiencies is one big way that costs can be reduced. But there's another really interesting aspect which is starting to emerge where technology is actually helping to reduce insurance costs by playing a big role in risk mitigation strategies prior to insurance events or claimable events occurring. And this is really in line with the trend towards more of a predict and protect model of insurance and moving away from the transactional insurance model. And so what I mean by that is things like flood and weather prediction and protection capabilities that go alongside home insurance policies in at-risk areas, or even, an area which is hugely important for us today, cybersecurity tools that help companies avoid attacks that go alongside a cybersecurity insurance policy. So there are a couple of examples where technology is actually helping to support reduce the risk before claimable incidents actually occur. And overall, that's also going to help reduce the cost of insurance for consumers and businesses.
And presumably big data over time will actually allow insurance companies to have more targeted and appropriate policies for individuals or businesses.
100%. And historically, again, that's not really been the case where insurance has been very tailored to businesses and individuals. But, the access to big data, and what I would say is insurers have always had a lot of data, and they've always stored a lot of data. But traditionally, they have not had the tools to analyze it really effectively, to be able to drill down and accurately price without having to use people to do that, to actually be able to use technology to use the data and accurately price. There's huge amounts of more data available to insurers today. And it's going to be a huge area where that data is being used for the good of being able to price more effectively, but also to provide more tailored solutions for individuals and businesses as well using the data.
Stay with me, Rita. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Rita Yates, CEO of InsureTech Australia. You mentioned cybercrime a moment ago. Are there many new forms of events that need insurance and then do some drop off as well?
Yeah, look, I don't see any dropping off in particular. I mean, I think the interesting thing there is that absolutely cybersecurity and cyber insurance is a huge developing area, and it's very much in its infancy globally. So there's going to be a lot of new developments in this space, new products in this space and so forth that develop over time as the risk of cyber crime and cyber incidents continues to increase. So that this is a really interesting area that we are keeping a close eye on, and that technology will play a major role within. In terms of areas that are emerging that require cover, our lives and our lifestyles continue to change. So the way that we are engaging with insurance is changing to a degree. So new products will continue to play a role in our evolving lifestyle. And an example is, the rise of the gig economy, for example. Now, gig economy insurance never existed a few years ago, but there are certainly products that are emerging to cover gig economy workers in line with the way that our lifestyles are changing and our work lives are changing in the future.
So all these developments in the insurance industry, is the regulatory landscape as well evolved, and can it handle these sorts of changes?
Well, as you probably know, there's a huge amount of regulatory change post the Royal Commission in insurance, along with other industries. And I don't think necessarily there needs to be more regulation, but possibly the environment could be more conducive to InsureTech and innovation more broadly. So InsureTechs obviously operate within the current regulatory landscape. The good thing for InsureTechs are that generally they're not seeking an insurance license to act as a full stack insurer, which is lucky because that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. On the positive side, there is a regulatory sandbox which was developed some time ago where essentially InsureTechs and fintechs can test their innovations. It would be great to see that expanded because it's quite limited at the moment. And the other interesting area of regulation which is developing, which will play a role in insurance moving forward, is open banking and the consumer data right. Now, at the moment, this only affects banking and banking customers, and it essentially allows consumers to more easily share their data and then switch products and services between banks. And that continues to evolve and it continues to be rolled out. As an industry, we would actually love to see the consumer data right expanded into insurance, which would obviously allow the same for consumers seeking insurance products, the same options. And it's likely that in the not too distant future, I think we're still a few years away from that insurance will actually reach that consumer data right timeline, and there will be changes in legislation around that.
Okay, and just finally, how big is the InsureTech sector in Australia? Like, where do we rate globally?
Well, globally, there are over 1,000 InsureTechs operating now. We have in Australia around 80 InsureTech startups and scale-ups that are members of InsureTech Australia, and that really represents the majority of InsureTechs that operate here. Mm-hmm. It's quite a large number considering it's actually a really new industry in Australia. And when we first launched InsureTech Australia in 2017, we literally had a handful of InsureTech organisations that were members of ours. So around 90% of our current members are Australian companies, and then the rest of those are international InsureTechs that have scaled into Australia. And that's interestingly an increasing trend to see international InsureTech organisations seeing Australia as a really positive place to move into and a positive environment to move into. A number of our Australian InsureTechs have also scaled globally or are looking to scale globally. And generally speaking, Aussie InsureTechs do create their propositions to go global at some point because it's quite a small market here, the Australian insurance market. In terms of how we stack up in the rest of the world, we are a very well established and well connected and well respected ecosystem. We're involved in many global InsureTech initiatives, and we're also one of the founders of the Global InsureTech Alliance in 2018, where organisations like ours from other regions are connected across the globe.
Fantastic. Rita, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thanks for having me.
That was Rita Yates, CEO and co-founder of InsureTech Australia. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join me every morning for the full Fear and Greed podcast with all the business news you need to know. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.